Good morning, this is Angela with Parco's Permaculture. I'm sitting in the front yard of my Portland, Oregon permaculture garden, and we are in Zone 8B. I'm under the cattle panel trellis in my front yard because I am getting ready to plant peas, both shell peas and snow peas this morning, and also sweet peas, but they won't be going here. So I thought I would share a couple of things that I have found help me be more successful in growing peas in the Pacific Northwest, but some of these tips are applicable anywhere. So I could have planted out my peas earlier. We live in a pretty mild climate, and generally you can plant peas in February if you want to. I do find that the earlier I plant them out, the more I am at risk for slug damage. And also, sometimes, including this year, we've had episodes of significantly cold weather where the ground is just too frozen to work. So this is when I have the time. This is when I've got my peas. You can check out my video on unboxing these peas from Fedco Seed Company. I will tell you that I am trying to grow more and more shorter season peas. I am a huge fan of Alderman tall telephone peas. I've grown them for 20 years, but they are a longer season pea. And here in the Pacific Northwest, what we're finding is that our summers are getting hotter and drier, and they're getting hotter quicker. And peas are a cool season crop. So I usually do 2 rounds of peas. I do a spring round and then I do a late fall round that are not for peas, but are just for pea shoots for sauteing or like throwing in a stir fry. So the peas that I'm growing here in the spring are 60-day peas and 65-day peas. So these are pretty short season. So I can get them in now and know that I will have time for my crop to mature before it gets too hot and dry. When temperatures hit 80 degrees Fahrenheit, peas really go south very quickly. I see folks in garden groups every year like, why are my peas looking so brown and dry? It's because it's too hot out. So get them in early, pick a shorter season variety, and you'll have more success in a warming climate. Now I'm growing my peas up my cattle panel trellis. Any good support works. In the old days, I really liked using the prunings off of my apple trees. Those water sprouts are really straight and you can stick them in the ground in a row for pea brush, and they work really well for shorter peas, any of those kind of half-high, knee-high peas. Any kind of sticks and twigs around the garden, you don't have to invest in a trellis in order to grow peas. But this is what I've got, so this is what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna do my peas right now up the inside, and as they're dying back, the pumpkins will grow up the outside and take over the trellis. So here's the base of the trellis, you can see here, and I'm gonna need to pull back this mulch, which is pretty darn deep. You can see the vestiges of last year's winter squash. I just throw those back in the bed and let them decompose. Now, when planting our peas, let me show you here. These are gonna be a green Bounty snow peas. You can tell it's raining. There's my peas. Now you might ask me, Angela, why did you buy peas? Well, 1, I'm trying these new shorter season varieties for me. And 2, in Oregon, it is really common to get weevils in your peas if you try and save your own stock. It's really a big pain if you've ever tried to save your own peas and find there's little circular holes in them and they don't germinate. That's because you had weevils in them. So for me, I'm gonna use these purchased certified organic seeds from Fedco, and I'm gonna just plunk them straight into the ground. Now I will do an insurance planting of some indoors in case I lose these due to crows digging them out of the ground. Sometimes squirrels go after the young shoots. Peas have a lot of calories in them, and a seed is just stored energy. So if you've got hungry crows earlier in the year, you will find they may pull up and eat your peas. So when I go to plant here, I wanna make sure that I'm putting at least 2 knuckles when I am planting my peas. And that's because peas, as I drop them in here, as peas absorb water and start to swell, to germinate, they can push themselves up out of the ground, announcing, hey, I'm a tasty little snack, come and get me, to crows or whoever wants to eat them. So if you come out to your garden and you found your peas have pushed themselves up out of the ground, think about planting them a little bit deeper next year. So I'm just gonna go along and plant this row. You can use a drill if you don't wanna use your finger, like any kind of stick that you can mark with a little bit of Sharpie or tape for how deep to plant them. I just use my finger because I'm old school. And then I'm gonna plant these all 1 inch apart all the way down the row. All right, so my hat's being a little wonky. All right, so I have the peas planted. I pushed them all down in a good solid 2 knuckles into the ground, and then I pushed the mulch back. And that way I know they're not gonna come popping up as they germinate. So let's really quickly go over those tips for success again. When you're planting your peas, make sure they've got some kind of support. Make sure that you plant them deeply into the ground so that as they are germinating, they don't pop up and become a tasty snack for crows. Make sure that you plant your peas pretty thickly. I would go no more than 1 inch apart, and if you are feeling like you want to add a little insurance, you can put 2 peas in each hole. When you grow your peas, make sure that if you live in a warming climate like I do, you think about getting a shorter variety pea so that you get a harvest before the weather turns hot. Well, the rain is picking up quite a bit. I'm going to go plant my sweet peas. And I'm going to, don't be upset with me, I'm planting some perennial sweet peas this year, which technically are invasive where I am, but I will probably do a video later on why I think these are great in the garden. Keep in mind, if you're growing sweet peas and you're growing garden peas next to each other, the sweet peas are not edible. So please make sure that you don't plant them right next to your shelling peas or your snow peas so that there's no confusion. You want to make sure you keep your edibles away from your non-edibles in the garden in terms of related plants. I will be back later for my permaculture garden. It is spring. You can hear just birds everywhere behind me despite the rain. Spring is in the air and there is a lot going on. My perennials are waking up and I have tons of seeds starting and work in the garden. So there will be lots more coming from this channel several days a week, I hope, over the next month or two. Okay, bye.